good to see you all, or at least maybe to think I'm seeing you all, right? Because I'm not really seeing anybody. I'm just looking at a camera. Today's recipe is gonna be for a peach pavé. And the peach pavé is, well, any pavé, I guess, is a layered dessert, right? And this recipe I've been making for years, over 15, maybe even 20 years. The recipe comes from a Brazilian series of recipe books. There are 3 in the series, and all of the recipes are from housewives that have donated or contributed their recipes to these books. The name of the book is Araxá Põe à Mesa, and I don't even know if they still exist, but this was, 20 years ago, our friends Rosa and Neto gave us, or gave me actually, I think it was to me, I don't remember, but I use the books, and I really love this recipe, so I think you're gonna enjoy it too. By the way, I've made this recipe before for my brother's co-workers, and they have called it orgasmic. So I don't know if it goes, I don't know really if it's that good. But it is really good, so you will really enjoy this recipe. So what we're gonna need is, for the cream layer, which is the first layer, we need 1 can of milk. So you just use the same can of your condensed milk, because we're also gonna need a can of condensed milk, the yolk of an egg, and 1 tablespoon of butter, as well as 1 tablespoon of cornstarch. And this is the base for the cream, and then you cook it on the stove. And then for the other layers, the lady fingers, we're going to need for the second layer, but we have to dip them in the syrup of canned peaches, so heavy syrup, right? And we will save the syrup after we strain the peaches. Don't throw it away, because you're gonna need it to dip these and then put them on top of the cream. Remember that the cream has to be cool before you put the layer of the lady fingers on top. After that, we're gonna slice the peaches, and then we're gonna arrange them on top of the pavé. The last layer is whipped cream. Everyone loves whipped cream. So you use heavy whipping cream and milk. I'm gonna put these back in the fridge because they have to be very cold when you whip the cream. So let me do that now. But that's the basic gist of it. I'm sure you're going to find this recipe amazing, and this is ideal to eat maybe after a really heavy dinner, just something super light, and it's just the tastes all together, they really blend well. And you can make this, and I promise you, whoever you make this for will fall in love with you. All right, let's get started. Here we are, ready to begin. So the first thing we're gonna do is add the condensed milk. Be sure to use a heavy pot. Next, we'll add the egg yolk. We will use the same can that we made the condensed milk or got the condensed milk from, and use 1 can of milk. One tablespoon of butter. What we'll do next is we'll just take a little bit of the milk, and so we're gonna take a little bit of the milk, not too much, maybe a little bit more, and we're gonna add the cornstarch to it. 1 tablespoon of cornstarch, maybe a little bit more, just for good measure. And then we can use this spoon to stir it. Now we turn on the heat. This is going to be here for about 5 to 8, maybe even more minutes as we stir it with the heat. We'll always have to keep mixing it, okay? Never stop stirring, because if you do, it'll stick to the bottom and then it'll clump. This is probably the longest step of this recipe. The rest is cinch. It's very easy. As you can see, the cream is getting thicker and it's about to boil. Once it starts boiling and thickens, that's when it's ready to pour. I'm gonna lower the heat a little bit to 5. Never stop stirring this, okay? If you stop, and you have to get the bottom really good, and always use a wooden spoon. Because if you stop stirring, and be careful, because when this gets on you, it burns like crazy, because it's very hot. Cream, when it's boiling like this, is very hot. See how it's thickening? The cream is getting thicker and thicker. I lowered the heat a little bit because it was too high. I was on 7, now I have it on 5. We want it to be very silky and not full of bubbles or little, you know, we don't want it to curdle. It's ready now. I think it's thick enough. We want it thick enough so that, yeah, there we go. It's just beautiful. So we're ready. Pour some into here. Spread it a little. Now we're gonna leave these for a bit, maybe like 15 to 20 minutes, so they cool off. For this next step, we will use a this mesh sieve, okay? And we will pour in the peaches. So let's do that now. So we're gonna set this aside. Set aside our peaches for the time being, because we're gonna work on this part now. And here we have the peach syrup, heavy syrup. Next thing we'll do is quickly dip these in here. So, there you go. For this next step, we're going to slice our peaches and arrange them on top of the lady fingers that were previously dipped in the syrup. So for this next step, we are slicing the peaches and we're going to arrange them on top of this, the lady fingers. Look how pretty this is turning out. This last step is fairly easy. All we're gonna do is make the whipped cream. So what we need for the whipped cream is, of course, the heavy cream, the milk, and some sugar. So we'll go ahead and pour in the whipped cream, and the recipe calls for about, I think it's like half a liter of whipped cream or whipping cream. So that looks like a good amount. We'll add a little bit of milk. We'll also add some sugar, but we'll do that later. Lovely. We have our beautiful whipped cream.